have racism before 1492. Everything that you see belligerent, when I say belligerent, I mean that it's against the nature of who we are. Everything you see that's belligerent to us as a tribal people came after 1492. We living in a foreign construct. We living under an occupied territory occupied by foreign forces masquerading as the people of the land. We didn't sign them damn treaties. I don't see Chief Little River on none of them treaties. I don't see Chief Running Bear, Chief Standing Bear, Chief Black Bear, Chief Red Hawk. I don't see none of them names on none of them treaties. Who the hell signing them? Our names was tied to nature because we was tied to nature. We didn't take on other names until foreigners came and imposed their concept of our culture on us the way they want us to express ourselves. When they tell you something is pagan, that means it goes all the way back to Pangea. That's what pagan means. Right? When they call a woman a witch, they saying she a wise woman and you can't run that shit on her. But we don't know this because they villainize words through negative press. Right? Before gangs was bad, we had our gang known as the Little Rascals. Gang mean tribe. Look it up. Do the etymology. Gang mean tribe. They just use it and attached it to every nefarious act of warfare going on in the hood to make you think that the tribes is not the tribes. We ain't never went nowhere. They bust us up. We reconstituted. It's just like when you, what's them robots, when they break them apart, then they all form back together again. That's all we did. We transformed in front of their face. We got the same symbols we've been had for thousands of years. That's how we identify each other. You ain't gonna join no so-called tribe or gang, or whatever they want to call them, that doesn't hold fundamental values that you can relate to. That's the allure, the attraction. The tribe have to move according to how the tribes always move. Crip walking ain't new. It was remembered and reperformed. All Crip walking is Tookie walking with the chains on his ankle through the death row, dead man walking, crooked man on the lane. You see, they didn't electrocute him because that shit wouldn't have did nothing but made him stronger. So they frozen in Area 51.
Woo! We about to go in now, buddy. We about to go in. So now, what you just said, I love that. What you just said, where does that play into the demonic so-called, I guess, power or extraction of power that some of these other beings or these people, like for example, the Skull and Bones Society, don't they have like the real Skull and Bones of, was it
it was Geronimo. It was Geronimo's skull and his finger bones.
Yes, sir. Can you kind of break that down into where we about
the
to go?
Skull and Bones came over here as pirates. The Skull and Bones came over here as pirates, and their counterpart is in Oxford. I think it's Oxford University. It's called the Scroll and Key. The Scroll and Key is the law and the key to the law. What we call it legalese today. That's the law, and the key to the law is understanding the. If you go to a law book, it'll show you in each case you read something called the law key. It's going to explain the law. So this who George Herbert Walker Bush was the highest ranked member on the Western Hemisphere, and that's why his ass got fried.
Yeah. And they're the ones that made the CIA too. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay.
They made it was called something else before that. I think it was because it broke up into two factions. One of them became the CIA, the other one became the FBI.
Yep. There you go, the alphabet
I,
boys.
I think it was called like the SAS or the SSO or something like that. State Security Organization or something like that. Right. But they always been here.
Right.
They've been here since Columbus came. Right. The story of the colonies don't start to the 1600s. We've been fighting this war. We was fighting this war in the 1500s. Let that sink in.
Yeah. Yeah. That's deep. And you know, I'm gonna tell you, like, in preparation for this show, I've been thinking about all different ways of places I want to go. One of the things that me personally, I feel like has been kind of like in my spirit is, of course, 1804. A lot of people don't know the significance of 1804 and the Haitian Revolution. I'm gonna kind of switch lanes a little bit, but because I want to kind of try to paint a global perspective, but also tie into historical concepts, right? So when you talk about 1804 and the Haitian Revolution and Jean-Jacques Dessalines and Dudley Boukman and all them who, you know, were the forerunners to lead the victory of that revolution, where do you see, because for me personally, I feel like I'm seeing the real life like resurrection of the Jean-Jacques Dessalines energy in Ibrahim Traoré. So like, do you see any like similarities or comparisons into like what we're witnessing when we see what we're witnessing with Burkina Faso right now? And then how does that, if to you, it ties in any way, shape, form, or fashion to 1804?
Okay, the Haitian Revolution is very significant to our liberation. We got to keep an eye on Haiti because the last shall be made first.
And the first shall be made last.
So the revolution that was put together there, we had to look at where did they go after they won? Where did the soldiers go with their bloodlust? Where did the priests go to work their conjure? When you look at the expatriation following the Haitian Revolution, most of the people that left went to two places. The soldiers went to Florida, and the priests and priestesses went to New Orleans. Now the question is, they just won a revolution, and all of the fighting soldiers is going to Florida, and all of the conjure people is going to New Orleans. What could possibly be the reason for that? Right? Why would they do that? So what was going on in Florida that triggered the Haitians that left the revolution to go to Florida? Gullah War. We was in the middle of Gullah Wars. So why would the sorcerers, the conjurers, the root workers, why would they go to New Orleans? New Orleans, the Big Easy, is the capital of the conjure. It tell you that in all of your horror movies. This is where all of the counteroffensives to these sorcery spells was put into effect to fight back. Most of us don't know that conjure magic in the colonial period was just as big as law writing. We don't know that because we don't study conjure magic because they told us voodoo was evil and you had to be a good Christian. The only ones of us that continue to keep the secrets is AME Church kept them for a long time. They masqueraded as a church to teach the root work in the back. Right? And then that's how you got a lot of root workers that matriculated into the church in other denominations. But we was trying to figure out how to fight back the sorcery with sorcery. They didn't want us studying voodoo because to use the practices of voodoo would liberate you from the conjurer John D. Let that sink in.
Yeah, boy. I knew this was gonna be one of them ones. Good. Yeah, this is definitely one of them ones. Man, listen.
Look, I put a post up back in 2019. It said, if they ask you what Rod doing about this, tell them voodoo.
Yes, sir.
I put black girl magic on everything I do.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, and more, sir. And listen, and that's the thing. Like, I always do my best to pay homage to the feminine energy. I meant to do it before we started, but we jumped right in and jumped in hot. But shout
We
out to
can
the mother.
pause, and we can pause for you to pay homage to the feminine energy. I totally support that.
Well, let's do it because we need to take a break anyway. Because you burning down the whole damn YouTube right now. So with that, I did want to give a honor and respect and praises to the mothers, especially in regards to the significance of what we're dealing with right here, from the cosmic level to, like I said, to the planetary level to even the internal level. But the mother, being the cosmic mother, being the mother that gives birth to all things, I wanted to just give thanks. When we talk about ancient Kemet, we talking about Ma'at. We're talking about Aset. We're talking about the mother of the feminine divine, principles, and Ifa. We're talking about we're talking about Ma'at. We're talking about Imoja. We're talking about the Odu. We're talking about Oya, Oshun. It's like Nanabaruku. There's so many different feminine aspects to the Odu. Odu is a feminine aspect to the creation of our people. So we got to give shout outs and thanks to the mothers. Shout out to all my mothers, even the ones in the realm of the ancestors, because without them, we're not here today. And so shout out to also Empress, Vertice, because without her and the work that she did, I don't know if the significance of what the work you're doing has the same amount of weight and effect, without her laying the foundation and doing what she did in regards to, the ancient ones and Washita. So, and even with Washita, is with that, and honor and thanks and Mudupe to the mothers and the feminine energy with Washita. Is there any connection from Washita to Washington? What is it, if there is? What is that connection?
The name Washington is a derivative of Washita.
Mm.
The Washington last name is carried over from Washita Indian, right? The Shaw last name is the carryover from Shoshone. The Upshaw last name is the carryover from the Upper Shoshone. The Hayes last name is the adaptation of Haya, which is Hayoka, which is a high priest of a specific order that has a specific role to play anytime that the land becomes compromised. We compromised. So now you see a Hayoka, but they think that the name is Hayes. It's Haya. It's Hayes. Hayas. But when you spell it in English, instead of Hayas, right, you spelling it Hayes, because all vowels are interchangeable in translation under Grimm's Law of Grammar. In order for you to get the pronunciation that the translator used, he can change the vowel to put the emphasis on what part of the word should be spoken. I just identified a few tribes for y'all, by the way.
Yes, sir. Yeah, man. Yeah, this is dope. This is real dope. So now, yeah, this is wow. This is powerful. So now, when we talk about the divine energy, right, and the creation aspects of that, being that we're going through this shift, and especially from the solar level, how does all of this play into us transitioning from this Piscean age into the Aquarian age? That is, going back from the patriarchal control into the matriarchal, cycle.
Okay, so according to the George Washington Challenge, we had 200 years to educate ourselves above the condition, right? So coming up on the conclusion of that is the age of knowledge, the age of knowing. We are transitioning from an age of belief, where they gave us stuff to believe in that didn't serve any purpose for us, right? Shout out to our mothers, all the mothers. I'm a matriot, not a patriot. I follow the matriarchy. I'm the chosen one to reiterate the structure of the matriarchy so the women can wake up from the slumber, because they more important than anybody else, because they the ones that's gonna spark the fire, the light to the new age by them waking up. They mitochondrial resonance is going to cause something called Atlas Shrug. And that's when the earth gonna shake off the parasites.
Listen, and that's what I was talking about Thursday night on that live, is getting rid of them parasites. So in the last segment or section, I forgot. And let me give that shout out. Shout out to Wunam, who came and burned it down last night. She's also a child of the EIME and the IJ. So I want to make sure I give a shout out and salute to those mothers as well, because those are some very powerful forces. So with that, I'm ready to dive back in, Big Rod. So man, this is dope. So okay, where do we go with reclaiming like ownership and sovereignty over Turtle Island from where we are right now?
So right now, we just have to continue to educate the public about what's taking place. And if you pay attention, you will see the transition of power, the old system being dismantled for a new system to emerge. They first have to destroy the old system before the new system power is activated. This is something that's already done. We just have to make public knowledge, because the more tribesmen aware, then the more of us that can stand in our own power, and we change the frequency by becoming our best version of us. And to become our best version of us, we need a sense of remembering who we were. We need to know who upped us upside the head and made us lose our mind. Right? So once we get to seeing it, and you have people like us just trying to explain it in the simplest terms as possible, then we fought doing our part is to inform the public, and then we don't have to worry about somebody else's part if we all do our own part, because everybody got a part to play. But some people's part is just bigger than others because they're more qualified than others. And some people's is smaller because they less qualified, but it don't make them less important. Ain't no big eyes and no little U's. It's all about us together waking up saying, no, we do not consent to be controlled and be enslaved in this artificial construct masquerading as our government. It's all about awareness at this point, because it's happening. You just need to be aware to know what's happening.
And that's facts. I say, and that's deep too, because now you said something that to me it kind of relates to. I know a lot of people been going crazy in a hoopla, in a tizzy over this movie, The Sinners, because of the symbolism, which there was a lot of symbolism in it. So what you just said, does that kind of tie into like the vampires like wanting to, or I should say, needing to be asked to come in? You know what I'm saying? Like, because they couldn't come in without somebody asking them to come in. But to me, that sounds like kind of like they won't give us, or I should say, we don't take our land until we take our land by doing what you just said in regards to us owning and being who and what we are.
So the vampires don't need permission to come in. They need permission to come indoors into an enclosure. But you can bump into one on the street. He don't need your permission to fuck you up.
Yeah, so that sound like them boys, the alphabet boys. Now, in regards to that, I remember we was talking about some good guys are gonna have to pretty much fuck up some bad people. When you mentioned that, can you kind of like tap into, like go into it a little bit deeper into regards of like what that looks like, or at least like what that kind of personifies?
It's just what it say. It didn't cut no corners. So we told this story about righteousness versus wickedness, good versus evil. Our whole life, every movie that we seen, we always chose the resistance. We always chose the side of the innocent and the righteous. We rarely ever choose the side of the wicked. That's your nature. Now, they gave us villains and painted them as the righteous. That's called an imposter. He's masquerading as the righteous. They told us Batman was a superhero, but we didn't know he was a schizophrenic having a schizoid episode, and all of his arch enemies was his counter selves that he was fighting all the time. He wasn't roaming the streets of Gotham. He was locked up in Arkham Asylum. But in his mind, he was roaming the streets of Gotham, fighting his alternate identities as the Joker, the Riddler, the Penguin. And this is the way that they take stuff and turn it around to confuse us.
Woo! Yeah, that's deep. That's real deep. Because now, okay, man, I'm glad you went there. So now, with you saying that, let me ask you this: have you seen the movie X-Men Apocalypse?
With Thanos?
I don't know if that was. I think that was the Avengers with Thanos, because I didn't see that one, but it made so much new noise.
Oh no, X-Men Apocalypse was the one where Magneto was fighting the Egyptian guy, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's the one. So I would just did you see that one?
Yep.
Okay, now I talked about that many times on this show too. When I saw that movie, I was like, "Oh shit!" Like they showing some real deal. Like they showing the real deal. With that, what you just said prior to me asking that question, you said it's like them flipping the script and trying to make us think in one way when it's really the other way. They did that with X-Men Apocalypse. They showed, you know what I'm saying, like I feel like a lot of ancient Kemetic truths, you know, that was going on with what they showed, but the only difference is they made the God out to be the bad guy, you know what I'm saying, that they had to get rid of.
The God is always the bad guy they got to get rid of because he come to set the record straight.
Can you tap into what that is and how that relates to what's happening now?
Yeah, I can tell you what go a little more important part of the story.
Let's get it.
When the guy woke up, what was the first thing he need for his power to activate? Do you remember?
It was a transference of consciousness, wasn't it?
He needed a woman. Remember? Go back to the movie. Remember the lady?
Since I've seen it, so I got to watch it again. But I just remember when I watched it, I'm like, yo, they showing some real deal stuff in this movie, like for real.
No male god can have power on Earth until a woman give it to him.
That's sure.
We ruler gods, we're not creator gods.
Yes, sir. And that goes back to even like the royal bloodline or the royalty on the throne. You can't, as a male, we can't sit on the throne without coming through the matriarchal bloodline. Is that correct?
Yeah. The king, the queens make the king.
Sure.
You need a king maker.
Yes, sir.
If you don't find the king maker, you won't never get to be the king. Right? Isis got to go find the parts of Osiris and put his ass back together in order for Heru to know what his daddy was like to replace the throne. It ain't no secret. It ain't no secret. But the only secret about it is that they got us believing that the men make queens. The men posted, that's patriarchy.
I just finna say it. That goes back to the Vatican and the Papal. That whole.
But under patriarchy, all of their queens been drag queens. Go back and look at their pictures. I ain't making this up. For all the way up to the office of the president, I think only a couple of the presidents actually had a woman for a wife.
Oh, yes, sir. So listen, we're going all the way in. I didn't want to go just to the Barack thing yet. And before we even go into it,
okay, let's go to George H.W. Bush and Big Buddy. They called him Barbara, but his name was Big Buddy when he played football. It ain't no the Statue of Liberty is a drag queen. Gave to us by friends to tell us that we being ran by drag queens that hate women.
Man, listen.
And I don't got I don't care about nobody's personal life. I don't care if you choose to sleep with a hairy ass man in your bed. That ain't got nothing to do with me because I'm not gonna be there. And you can't get me to come because that ain't my lane. Right? But for the people that it is, I don't care. I'm just telling you what they was using to oppress us. They was using cross-dressers. to masquerade as matriarchs to trick us into believing that the matriarchs was under some kind of demented rage of power. No, it was all drag queens. It wasn't no women. Look, the flip side of patriarchy is feminism. That's the other side of the coin. Most of your feminine barbers singing all them, they cross dressers.
Hillary Clinton. What was his name or whatever that thing's name?
Hillary was an actual female, but she was being controlled by the old man Bush.
Okay.
Her CIA code name is Evergreen because her job was transporting minors and cargo containers from all around the world to the Americas. Bill Clinton's CIA code name is the Snowman because he was bringing all that cocaine into Arkansas. Barack Obama, his CIA code name is the Jackal. The Jackal is the patron saint of Kenya. He said he was born in Kenya.
Yeah, boy. We definitely got a hot one on our hands tonight, buddy. Yeah, you're talking about a block party, boy. We burning it down, man. This is the third one, the 3-peat. So now, yeah, fuck it. I'm gonna go there. So Barack, because I know about cloning. I know you know about cloning. And I also know that a lot of us, I think, don't take it serious as to how real cloning is. So being a student of Dr. York, me personally, I know that's a real thing. I know how deep it goes. But can you kind of tap into how cloning plays an effect with what we're seeing in this circus that we call the U.S. government and some of their past presidents?
You ever heard of Operation Paperclip?
Yes, sir.
Well, the Third Reich had acquired the scrolls for genetic manipulation that we call cloning. And in this process, after World War II, they went to Brazil and they went to Argentina to set up a breeding program. They call it the Boys from Brazil. The false narrative is that they were cloning little Adolf Hitlers. That's not who they was cloning. They were cloning Akhenaten, who we get Barack Obama from. The Boys from Brazil, they went and made 50 clones of Akhenaten, and most of them they killed doing experiments on them. So it's only a handful of them left, but it's more than one or two. It's like 5 or 6, and they use them as each other's doubles when they going through certain stuff. The cloning of Akhenaten was to deprive Tutankhamun from his right to claim the throne, which is the Boy King. The Boy King came to us as Tupac Amaru, aka the reincarnation of King Tut, who was coming to get his throne. And whenever the one who's the rightful heir is being undermined, they have to call a superior elder to the forefront to give them their shit. I want my shit back. So in the terms of the Orisha, Tupac is my Legba. I'm his Ogun. He opened the path and I'm kicking down the door. Now we can go through some voodoo clues to help you figure it out. Right? Mm-hmm. Haitian Jack told Tupac, and this is a Haitian Jack interview I'm quoting him from. If you do your performance for 22 months, it's going to take 22 years before you see the result. The marker is on the song, I think it's Outlaw with Lil Rah at 11, which gave rise 22 years later to an emperor, Haile Selassie, come to us as Gangsta Nip. When the emperor came and forced the reign of the king, then the emperor got a call on the god. It's the rank. Everybody get a chance to solve the problem until the problem solver get here. So now We come to solve the problem. Tupac said in his jailhouse interview, if you think that I'm a problem, wait till this next dude come.
Yes, sir. And that goes back to, I ain't saying I'm the one who gonna change the world, but I guarantee you I'm gonna be the
I
spark.
sparked the brain that changed the world.
And boy, when I tell you we here now. Because it ain't just one brain. It ain't just one.
So they keep asking me about having mercy on these motherfuckers. I got the same mercy they did when they was cutting babies out of women's stomach throughout the South. I got the same amount of mercy they had when they was setting niggas on fire. I got the same amount of mercy they had when they was putting chokeholds on brothers in L.A. When they was shooting them down in the back in Chicago, Detroit, New York, Boston, Baltimore, Philadelphia, Miami, Atlanta, Houston, Dallas. I got the same amount of mercy for all of them. I got the same amount of mercy for them that they had for us when they was doing that to us. I don't got none. I got the same amount of mercy. If they want me to know what do I want to do with them? Line their ass up. I'm going to pull the guillotine because I want their blood on my hands. Because they didn't got enough sisters' blood, they bloody hands across her face. That native movement ain't no haphazard shit. That's because the one with the bloody hand was trying to conceal the woman's voice. So every time they do something to one of them sisters, in order to let you know that we know who the black hand is, with your black glove saturated with the red blood of the original organic people of the land. Right? I don't got no mercy for them. That's how much mercy I got for them. So when Tupac said he ain't gonna have no mercy, just turn about fair play. I'm gonna feel as bad for you as you felt for me when you had your foot on my neck. It ain't personal. It's just business. It's family business. So I just take family business personal.
Ooh. Yes, sir. Yeah. And shout out to my Pac Shrine. I lit him up earlier, and because I wrote a children's book called Starseeds, and the two children's main characters was Malik and Amaru. One was for Malcolm, and the other one was for Pac. And that's powerful. Like, oh my God, that's powerful, because that goes back to the Dessalines energy.
Yeah, look, my outlaw name is Morpheus Hitler, the bitch nigga cleanser.
Say it again for the people in the back.
My outlaw name is Morpheus Hitler, the bitch nigga cleanser. So we here to get the bitch ass niggas out the game. What Pac tell you when he was all informing us about Death Row East? He say, we just trying to get the imposters out now. We already checkmated their ass 3 years ago. It's 25, 26 years now. They been checkmated. We just had to get the imposters out. The frauds.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yeah, buddy. Yeah, we here now. We in tonight, buddy. It's a combination of Ogun and Shango energy in here tonight. Like, this is dope. I knew this was. I swear to God, I felt like this interview was gonna be like the it was like when Pop came home, when Big Shug came and got him out. I felt like this interview was gonna be that, and I swear on everything I love, if it ain't no less than that, because that's what this is. Like, that's what this is.
Look,
like,
it's 5 sisters of the Califia. It's 5 sisters of the Califia. They all point a bear. All the 5 sisters are pointing a bear. That is your West Coast defenders. Sugar Bear, Big Shug, the Red Bear. Right? I'm not in California to know who the other ones are, but they there. They OGs now. They the ones that's telling the YGs, hey, we ain't finna do that dumb shit. You're not gonna go rob no liquor store. We're gonna get 1,000 motherfuckers and run up in Nordstrom and hit their ass in the pockets. Make their insurance pay them. Exploit the law and use it to our benefit. So when the Califia Queens reconstitute the replica of the Califia castle, we call it the Disney castle because we don't know that that's the replica that the Spanish Armada bombed into oblivion where Alcatraz is at. So I'm telling it.
Ooh. Oh, yeah, boy. All right. Well, real quick, because we definitely going hot and hard. To take a quick breath because the comments are going crazy. I can't even keep up with that. Shout out to T-Mac 305. I'm gonna bring you up too. Said Chief Pontiac in the building. Yeah, Chief Pontiac definitely in the building and burning it down too. Can you kind of, before we go into like the next phase, because it's a lot. Okay, so can you kind of break down Queen Califia and like where California came from, for those who might not know? Because I know there's a lot of people on here that do, but a lot of people I'm pretty sure don't know. So can you kind of break down the ties between Queen Califia and the state of California?
Queen Califia is the matriarch. It was a collection of 5 of them. It wasn't just one. It was 5 Califia queens, but the eldest was the senior. She's the one that's on the crest for California from the tribes. And they are the ones who everything west of the Rocky Mountains from Alaska all the way going into Mexico, that's their territory. They champion is Tupac. He always been from the time he was Tupac Amaru all the way back to when he was Tut in Arizona. They war with the Califia queens is given to us as fictional writings, right? So that we won't never believe that the story of Wonder Woman is the story of Califia. If you pay attention to the story of Wonder Woman, her sister is a sister. Make it make sense. Her sister is a sister because they wanted to pretend that it was a such thing as a white man. Ain't no such thing as no white man for real. That's a royal status of European nobility. Anybody that's a practitioner of them wear they jewels on their lapel to show you that they work for the black nobility. But they black nobility because they conceal, they stealthy, they in stealth mode, but they the white man.
Yep.
In Spain, they was called conquistadors. In France, they was called Huguenots. In England, they was called gentry or royal families of Europe. The ones that ruled Europe from 711 to 14 something. Right? Then they got kicked out, finally got kicked out in 1493 or 94 after Columbus made his voyage. They was all being rounded up and shipped to something called Al Maghrib, which today is Morocco, Tunis, and Libya. And from there, they launched an attack by order of the Pope, and they went around South America to attack the West Coast. Right? That was DeSoto. And they bombed the castle because the women wouldn't do business with them because they didn't want them here. And they called them some selfish bitches and they blew the motherfucker down. They had to build a replica. So Walter Disney was responsible to build the replica. So he built the replica. And what it looked like is just like the Disney castle, but it was a real castle. And they went from bombing it, turning it into a military outpost. Then they converted the military base into a prison. Then they shut it down because the spirits was walking. I mean, it's the history. It's just who we are. Right? Yep. Turn the capital into a prison. They love all our castles. If you look at the prisons around the country, they are castles repurposed to be a prison. Whether it's Jackson, whether it's Pontiac, Illinois, whether it's Stateville, Illinois, what's the one on the bay in California? Look at the prisons. They turn all of our castles into prisons, state buildings, and mental institutions.
Yeah, that's deep.
because they was trying to claim after the Lewis and Clark expedition, they claimed we didn't have no royalty on the land. But that's because we all was going to fight in the Gullah Wars in Florida. So while we going south and east, they going north and west. Go look at the map.
Yeah.
Go look at the travel path of Lewis and Clark, because the main chiefs all over the land was en route because the Big Mama, who was from the Gullah Geechee community in the Carolinas, called us to war. We know who called us, because we know who is the only person that can call all tribes on deck. Big Mama, the only one. The only one. We not gonna move for nobody else. And if Big Mama call us and we don't want to go, our Big Mama for our tribe gonna say, you gonna get your ass over here and fight.
Big Chief, can I listen? Can we talk about Gullah Geechee and that little section right there and how that ties into what we're talking about tonight?
So, those people, they call them Gullah Geechee, but we also had people called Getty Geechee. But all of these is later terms applied to us. And when the Gullah Wars was going on, the Spanish called them Seminole Wars. We call them Gullah Wars because we know who called us to war. And they call them Seminole War from the word Seminoles. They say it means runaway, but the root word is semi, which means half. Which means that the tribes was a mixed breed of people that they was talking about. The runaway slave, when they show you that famous picture of the brother standing next to the Mongolian was the runaway slave, not the nappy-head dude. They was brought over originally as indentured servants from the slave villages from years of fighting Mongolians and Huns and Vedics of the Roman Empire. They created slave villages for their captives to live in, and then when they got kicked out of Europe, they brought them with them. And then in the Trail of Tears, they switched us out. They sent them to Indian school to teach them our stuff. Go look at a picture of the old Indian schools and zoom in on them babies. Them not no goddamn pale faces. They Asians.
Shout out to Mama V. I was just talking to her about that tonight. Let me ask you this real quick. Oh my God, this is dope. So, man. All right. So let me ask you this, because I'm not 100% sure, but something you said, it kind of clicked that it might be some correlation. So when you said, I think you said something about Attila the Hun and like the battles and the wars and all that. Is Attila the Hun or whatever that's called, like, does that have something to do with Genghis Khan and like with him and his
Attila the Hun was a Hun. Genghis Khan was Mongolian. Those are two different bloodlines. Those are two different bloodlines of Asians.
But I know Genghis Khan had a lot of children, like
like 5,000.
Yeah, so that's why I was wondering if any of that had anything to do with like tying into what we're talking about now.
It's directly tied. It's a book called Leadership Secrets of Attila the Hun. In that book, he talk about the student exchange program that they signed in a peace treaty with the Romans, and the leader of each country would send their sons to go learn from the other country, right? If you study the history of Genghis Khan, he was stopping the beastie hordes from the west from invading in to what is known as Siberian Peninsula today, right? So not peninsula, the Siberian tundra. He was Siberian. The Huns are more southern and closer to the Hindus of India, and the Mongolians is more northeastern. They were more the round face, what we call pie face, than the Huns. It was two different bloodlines. If you go to Google and just ask what percentage of men has Genghis Khan blood, it's gonna blow your mind to find out how many over here.
Right, and that's what made me ask that question, because I can't even remember where I picked that information up at. But I was either studying something or researching something. I saw it somewhere, and that's what made that kind of like trigger in my mind. Is that connected? Because I know he did that specifically and intentionally for doing what what they are doing. You know what I mean? Like putting his DNA out there to do whatever he can get it to do. But how does that?
His DNA got over here with the incursion of the Moors who brought him over as servants.
Right.
Right. A lot of those tribes, if you take the feathers off,
Mm-hmm.
and then you go look at the Mongolian tribes, they dress the same. They never, because you can take a person and re-educate him, but what's in his soul is going to permeate through his DNA, and he's going to reconstitute. It's two groups of those mothers. It's the ones who took sides with the dirty Moors, and then it's the ones that took sides with us. How can you tell the difference? The ones that took side with the enemy, they all got casinos and living high on the hog with no resistance. The ones that took sides with us, like the ones in Arizona, dirt poor. And all they do is get drunk. Because alcohol don't do us well across the tribes. Right? We've been drinking for thousands of years, but it was only the old Mississippians. The rest of the tribes weren't drinking tribes. They were smoking tribes. They was peyote tribes. They was mushroom tribes. They was tobacco tribes. You know, they was lavender tribes. They was herbal tribes. All of them didn't drink. So when they finally got a hold of some alcohol, it fucked them up.
Yeah.
Right.
And we see
but
our families now, like in real life, like in real time, not going to our original tribes, but just based off of what you said. Now, let me ask you this, because you going in, man. Oh boy. So let me ask you this. So now when you talk about that, in regards to like the smoking tribes, the mushroom tribes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. When we talk about shamans and healers and priests and priestesses, you know, all that, diviners, all those sages, all of the elements that we need to be able to kind of like proceed in regards to the movement of the revolution and the empowerment of our people. There was always that shaman, there was always that healer, there was always that, you know, that priestess, etc. Like sinners, you had the hoodoo woman, etc. But there was a call that I saw with you. I can't remember which brother it was, but we were talking about, y'all talking about the significance of tobacco or even mushrooms as well, and how they give us the ability to tap into a much higher level of consciousness and to receive messages from that kingdom, like i.e. the mushroom, and how I remember, I think you was talking about how one of the mushrooms was talking to you or something crazy like that.
The spirit of the mushroom.
Yeah, it was Brother Rich show, and he was talking about the tobacco he got from like Honduras or something like that. So can you kind of tie in or share with us how these different types of elements can help us to access higher realms of consciousness, but also receive messages or intelligence from spirit from which that particular element comes from?
So once you in tune with the spirit of the mushroom, you can draw information from what's called the psilocybin network. That's a network that all mushrooms communicate on a spiritual level, right? And far as tobacco, you have something called nicotine receptors that boost the function of the brain, right? They don't tell us about that, but the nicotine receptors is there because we've been using nicotine for so long to aid us in awakening our consciousness. You have something in your body called an endocannabinoid network, where you have endocannabinoid receptors and all throughout the body. And the use of the cannabis allows you to connect your endocannabinoid system, which brings you into the ability to download information out of the ethers. Right. So when you hear people talking about they was reading the ethers, that's the same thing that we do if we know how to use our endocannabinoid system. right? All these are means to tap into higher states of consciousness, right? But they poison us so much now that even a lot of the tobacco is sprayed with aluminum sulfide, cyanide, sulfates, and different poisons to try to minimize its positive effects. So the side effect of smoking becomes lung cancer and all of that. But if they didn't have, if you remember, we had grandmamas that was in their 90s and big papas that was in their hundreds that have been smoking since they was 5 and never caught cancer because a lot of our medicine was in the food. And the tobacco wasn't toxic until they put toxic pesticides on the tobacco. And that's what makes the tobacco become toxic. Otherwise, it would be benign smoke, right? With positive, what they call nootropic effect, stimulating the function of brain communication. The CBDs in the cannabis is also, it's like a facilitator for rapid synaptic firing of the neurons in the brain. So the it's like greasing up the system. And then you have what's called the soot from the dirty burn. That's why you get the munchies. Because the sugar is the catalyst for most brain function, the glucose. Like 80% of your glucose is used to make your brain function. Right? So when you had the munchies and you eat a bunch of sweet stuff, you get what's called the rapid dirty burn, which produces the soot. The soot is the carbon, which is the mirror to melanin. And when you put two mirrors, you can see the difference between the two. Right? So it's all functioning within the biology of who we are. And this is why we use those substances. This is what make you become a vice lord, the lord of your vice. Your vice don't rule you. You use the stuff that became vices that didn't affect us before to facilitate you reaching different states of consciousness, which allow you to download information in the waking state, sometime in the dream state.
That's deep, bro. That's real deep because I just had a crazy dream last night too. Excuse me, but whew, yeah, that's deep. Like, that's real deep. Man, there's so many different ways I want to go with where we are right now. We at an intersection here. Man, it's a lot. So okay, let me ask you this.
You gotta ask everything in one session.
I know. That's why I'm like, wow.
Yeah,
like, I knew it was gonna be like this. So
they asked me how to eat an elephant. I told them one bite at a time.
That's all we can do. That and look, that goes back to E5 too. E5 is it's an Odu that speaks on that about how to take down the elephant. And it's one bite at a time. But look, okay, so let me ask you this, because we need a lot of healing, right? We need a lot of healing. I feel like there's so much going on right now, and I feel like there's so many of us who are at the level who can appreciate the information, or even like the crystallization that for some people listening, it's going to be a confirmation of what they've already knew, felt, seen, or heard, in other places or experiences, right? But then there's a group of us who that they haven't been able to like reach or tap into being in alignment with where this particular conversation is going. But that, I want to be clear, that doesn't diminish or make them less than, anybody else or anything like that, because we need everybody at this point, all hands on deck. So where can we help to kind of create that starting point for those people who are on the show or on the live or who might watch the replay to like tap into not just this level of energy, but also if they want to maybe research their roots or their heritage and how that all plays a part into who they are at this point in our time?
Well, all of the information is in the public domain. Most of it is in books. If you go back to Bobby Hemmett say they put everything in the books. They wrote it all down, right? In ancient Egypt, when they said we was going to go into this darkness, they said that we needed to start to record the history in writing so that the future generations on the other side of the amnesia would be able to recover the information from the writings. right? So it's a lot of different venues of study tribes, study the history of the so-called Native American, and then ask yourself, in this description do we already do every day naturally? Because what you do naturally is what you learn from nature. What you learn to do unnaturally is what you learn from man. And you will see that we still move according to the same tribal patterns we always move.
That's deep. Can you say that? What you just said again? What was learned and like what was? Can you say that again? Like that last. You said something about what was learned by nature and what was learned by man. Can you share that? Can you
Yeah,
kind of?
that which we do naturally is what we learned from nature, which is already in us. That which we learn that's unnatural, we learn it from man, right? So what that means is when we watch Bloods, B Walk, Crips, C Walk, we watch them boys in the Midwest Hoover stomping, we watch them line dancing, that's coming from the soul. When we got our boots on the ground, actually where them fans at, that's coming from the soul. And we all get on board because we recognize something in the frequency, and the song is the rally cry, and the dance is the expression. So what you learn naturally comes forth from your DNA, and it's stuff you do automatic. It's like Big Mama go in the kitchen and cook for everybody in the house. She don't just cook for her, right? Where if a person live by themselves, they might cook too much food because they naturally want to cook for a family, right? That's nature, right? But when you be like, fuck everybody else, I'm only worried about me, you learned that from somebody that was selfish, self-centered, greedy, and righteous and entitled.
Just that's real, and I feel like that's a product of the environment of being a product of being influenced by that same, dirty more papal, what you call it,
Indoctrination.
there you go. Yes, sir. That's what I was trying to get to from the Vatican. So yeah, that's real. This is dope. So let me ask you this, in regards to, because I want to go deep, because we already went deep, but I want to go even deeper because I've been talking about the inner earth. I've been talking about Atlantis and Lemuria, Agartha. You know what I'm saying? Like things that are totally foreign to a lot of people, but being that we've been blessed to have great master teachers, we know about a lot of this. But I don't want to create some sort of barrier as to like not sharing what needs to be known to, you know what I'm saying, the globe for that matter. Where does the extra level of higher intelligence and advanced beings come into play with the grand scheme of things of what we're experiencing today, i.e., like inner earth beings who, you know what I'm saying, have access to the inner earth, or Lemurians, Atlanteans, et cetera, et cetera? Like, how does that all tie into what we're witnessing and what we're experiencing right now?
It's the exhuming of a nation. It's just like a hard drive. Every time you erase the hard drive, your computer tell you it's clear. You can erase it and fill it up 50 times. A good computer engineer, code writer, or hacker can go back to the first program that was on there. It's the same thing, right? Everything still exists in layers of history or strata. This is where you get archaeology and anthropology from. They trying to dig through the strata layers to discover what the ancients knew so that they can remember what we capable of. We can do all that stuff already. We just don't know we can, but because you don't know you can do it and you scared to try, you won't never get it done.
I love that. Man, I love that because I just had a conversation today. Because like in the Ifa Isheshe community, right, a lot of us feel like put self-limited beliefs on ourselves as to thinking that you have to be initiated into a priesthood or into a priestly society in order to have access to a priestly ashe or energy. Like, but if you really just tap in and study and research and do whatever it takes to hone your skill and to sharpen your sword and, you know, your craft, we're all a child of God. We could do whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's what I believe, because that's what led me to the path that I'm on now. Like, it wasn't about Ifa Isheshe. That was part of my journey. But I've been this child of God all my life prior to this life, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, but I want to share with those who may have been indoctrinated, because unfortunately, us, even as melanated beings, especially in certain types of religious or spiritual constructs, have distributed that same kind of, you know what I'm saying, patriarchal, dominating, you know, a wannabe controlling dictatorship type of energy amongst our own people. So for those who might not have the personal self-confidence or the access to teachers that have the wisdom, like brothers like you, or, you know, a lot of the other master teachers that have been on here, what would you tell them in regards to tapping into that next level of energy, or even like trying to open up their mind? Let's talk about the mind, to like access brain levels like Lucy.
Learn self-talk. If you don't do nothing else, the art and science of self-talk, you can navigate your own self to whatever you want to do. You got to learn. We got to remember, Michael Jordan wasn't the greatest of all time in basketball when he was 13. He didn't know how to play basketball. He had to learn how to play basketball, but his passion at the time was baseball. But instead of pursuing baseball, he settled on basketball and became the GOAT. So this telling you that because you don't know how to do something, don't mean the potential to learn is not present with you, right? Malachi got a book called Your Potential, right? And it's talking about you can do whatever you train yourself to do. You got to be willing to practice. You have to have a desire to want to learn something in order for you to apply yourself. You're not going to learn something you ain't got no interest in. I don't care who try to force it down your throat. You're not going to learn it. You're going to try to ignore it. But if you're interested in, you're going to focus, you're going to concentrate, and you're going to pay attention. Focus, concentration, and attention means active downloading of the methodology of the thing you didn't know that you're interested in knowing. And you got to remember, when you first learn something, cognitive dissonance is there, but if you wait a little while, it'll settle and you'll understand it better. Don't try to understand everything as soon as you hear it or see it. Sometimes you just got to sit with the information, because your subconscious mind have a unique ability to make stuff connect for you. We call that planting a seed. And all you have to do, plant your own seed. And whatever it is you want to learn, you can learn it. It ain't nothing. You could be 50 years old and still go to school and learn how to be a brain surgeon. It ain't no time limit on learning. The only thing that's a limit on learning is the ambition to learn. That's the only limit. And you can do way more than you know, but you've been told you can't do shit because you didn't come from shit. So all you can be